Greetings. This is Mr. Glenn of ACT Prep Chicago, where we've been helping students to prepare for the ACT and SAT standardized tests for the last 15 plus years, close to 20 years. Our contact is ACT Prep Chicago. You can reach us at the website actprepchicago.com. That's where you can see our web page here, as I'm showing you on our screen. But we've done a really great job. You can see our testimonials on Google, contact information, increase in scores, some testimonies, and also our number if you want to reach out is 773-474-2540. However, this video is dedicated to helping students. It is a review of the PACT that was administered to high school students October 2025. And I'm just going to start with the math version of the exam. And we're just going to go through each problem so that you guys have a video of how to complete these problems. And so without further ado, let's get started. Let's see how we can make this a full screen. Should have done that before. Okay, without further ado, let's get started. So let's scroll down to this is the PACT that was given October 2025 to schools. So we'll scroll down to the math questions. So the first one is Sienna will be paid $75 plus 25% of her total weekly sales. For the hours she's scheduled to work weekly. That W represents Sienna's total sales, weekly sales. I think we can read that problem. Which of the following expressions gives Sienna's pay in dollars for the hours she's scheduled to work for next week? $75 is your flat rate, plus you're getting 25%. So if we look at the $75 is the flat rate, we know it has to be either A or D because that's the plus 75 here. That's your flat rate. And then plus 25% of her total weekly sales. So we know 25% of something, take 25% of something, you do 0.25 of that. You turn a percent, 25% to a decimal, which is 0.25. 25% to a decimal is 0.25. And then when you want to take a percent of a number, you multiply. So if W represents the endless total weekly sales in dollars, so we take 25% of that, 0.25 times W, or W plus the $75 flat fee that you already get. Choice A for number one. All right, moving along to the next one, number two. Jing announced the grade distribution for this week's books report. Of the 24 students in the class, 8 received A's for their book report, 11 received B's, and 5 received C's. When a student chose a random to be the first one to read his or her book report to the class, what is the probability that the student chosen has received an A? So probability is always what you want. Probability is what you want over total. What we want is the probability that the student chosen will receive an A. So how many A's were there? How many students received A's? 8 received A's for the report. Out of the total is 24. Just making sure that's right. Students. Yes, that's right. And you reduce that to 1/3, which is the choice. All right. Hopefully that is clear to you. Let's move on. Number three. The chart below gives the average high and low temperatures in degrees Celsius for the month of June for 4 cities throughout the world. These are 4 cities, average high, average low for 1 month, which is June. And which of these cities was it the hottest on June the 15th? There's not enough information to tell us that because it's just average high temperature and average low. We can't use that information to get what the temperatures were each day. So because of that, we do not know which of these cities had the hottest on, so we cannot determine that from the information given. Right? Number four. The regular price of a calculator is $49.95, $49.95 before taxes. It goes on sale at 20% below the regular price. Before taxes are added, what is the sale price of the calculator? So probably the easiest way to do this would be if you take the $49.95 and you take 20% of that. So when we want to take what? 20% of a number. Again, we talked about that before, which is what we do in that case is we turn the percent, 20% to a decimal, which is 0.20. Whenever we take percent of a number, that ends multiply. And then we multiply by the 49.95, 20 times 49.95. And I'm very careful with my students to say, okay, what do we get at this point? So when we do 20% of 49.95, what did we get? Well, we got the actual discount, right? And let's say, is that what it asked for? Sorry, not 995, 999. So you always got to go back to the question. What is the sale price, not the discount? This is the discount. This is the 20%. I always tell students as well, too, the percent here and the actual should match in ideas or in words, and just in different form. This is the percent of discount. This is the actual discount, the price. Both are the discounts. This is your total. So if we had a discount of $9.99 from the total price, we still have to subtract the original price, $4.99, minus the discount to get the sales price. There's another way to go about doing this, but we won't. We'll just do it that way. So we have $39.96. That would be our final answer. The other way would be going about doing this. We could call this method B, would be if we do the initial based on percent. So if we do 100% is our what, original, right? And then we say we want to take a 10%, 20% off of the original right now. So this would be the discount. So our sales price would represent, and I want you guys to notice how I'm labeling the numbers. I'm just not putting numbers, I'm putting words with numbers. Original percent was 100 minus the discount percent. So 80% would represent the sales price percent. So now we can set up a percent equation based on the sale price percent. So when we take 80%, which is our sales price percent of the original value, which is what? 49.95, we should get our actual sale price. You guys get that? Here again, we got sale price percent, we got actual sale price. Okay. So they have to match in your percent equation. Just like here, we had discount percent, we had actual discount. Here, we're going to have sale price percent, we had actual sale price. So we turn the 0.80% of means multiply, we'll take percent of a number. So we do 80% of $49.95. If you put it on the calculator, 0.8 times 49.95, we'll get 39.96, the same value we had. So those are the two different methods, ways to do it. That's why I did the different colors. Next one is number 5. This is simply multiplying exponent values. We know when we multiply exponents, we multiply the coefficients. So that means 4 times 5 is 20. And we multiply exponents that have the same base. In this case, they both have base b. We add the exponents. So 8 plus 3 is 11. Those are your rules for multiplying exponents. The answer to that one is D. The skill is multiplying exponents. And I should start saying the skill. So if you want extra practice at Be a Khan Academy, you can do that. Number 6, it gives us two cubes. It gives us a small one and a big one. Shown below have diagonals AB and CD, respectively. Now, because they're both cubes, that means they share the same properties, which is essentially each side is the same. They all have 90-degree angles, but they're going to be proportional because they are the same figure. right? So, and we can see there's a 3 to 12 portion of the small to the big one, okay? The side lengths given are in feet. What is the ratio of the length of AB to CD? Well, if you know anything about figures, similar figures, you know that if the figures are similar, which we can say the cubes are similar, how do we know that? But because they're both cubes, okay? Since they're both cubes, the figures are similar. So the ratio of the length to the sides, which is what? 3 to 12 will also be the ratio of the lengths of the diagonals because these are just lengths. They're both lengths of proportional figures. So it's going to be the same. 3 to 12, we can write the fraction is 3 over 12, which is reduced into 1/4, which is f. Right, next one is number 7. What is the value of negative x plus y plus z? And this is just simply substituting. Now, I always tell my students, be careful when you're doing this kind of substitution. So this is how I tell them to do it every time. So write it as is, but when you see the variable, you put parentheses. So I would do something like this. Okay. So minus a -1. And here's where a lot of students would mess up right there. They would mess up because they would confuse this minus with this minus, and they would only put maybe one negative or one minus. Remember, this minus was outside, was x, where we replace x with -1, so it becomes minus some negative, which actually is going to end up being a what? Positive value, right? +1 there. But let's continue with the other substitutions of the other variables. For y is -3 and z is 2, okay? Now we don't have minus and negative in front of those, so we can simply just write 1 plus negative, whoops, let's change that color back to red. 1 plus -3 plus 2. 1 plus -3 is -2 plus 2 is 0. Answer is C. Simply simply substituting and adding integers. Okay. Number 8, let a square represent the value of x and a circle represent 1. So if a square represents x and a circle represents 1, so if we take choice F, for instance, we would have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 x's, which you might represent as what? As 6x. And then this would be these, and the circle represents 1. Those would just be what? 1. So we say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So like if you look at the first one, that's 6x plus 10. Now, when we take our original problem, which you see is there, let's move that. Let's change that color. I like to change colors because you have to understand sometimes that can be different. So we have 2 times finally 3x plus 5. This is testing your ability to distribute or use the distributive property. We're going to the number outside of parentheses mean we multiply by both terms that are inside parentheses. It's two terms because they're separated by the addition sign. We have 2x, 2 times 3x to give us 6x, and then we have 2 times 5, which is 10. The plus just comes down. That's 6x plus 10. These are the same, as you can see. Therefore, our answer is out. Okay. You could try the other ones and you'll see that you won't get the equivalent value to the expression. Okay. Moving right along. Number 9, the distance versus time graph below represents Barbara Jean's walk to school on Friday. So what can we look at this walk if we think about it? Um, her distance walked from her distance walked is not from necessarily the starting point, it's how far she walked. She walked this far, and then with the level line, it means she was in time is still going. As you can see, it's still going from left to right, time is still going, but level line means there's no distance being traveled. What does that mean? That means she's somewhere where she's not walking to a location properly. So she could be sitting at a chair in the doctor's office, or she could just be in the doctor's office. Maybe she's walking around the doctor's office, but the distance they usually refer to in this kind of graph is when you go from one location to another, not the distance you travel within that location. Okay? So which of the following statements could describe what Barbara Jean did during the time interval covered by a horizontal line? Well, she's not really traveling a distance if you consider it. That's the horizontal line from B to C. We just talked about that because time continued to go from left to right, but what? But distance didn't change. There was no vertical movement here. It was just a horizontal line. So no distance changed as time did. Therefore, what? Um, A, she walked. No, she walked. No, she walked. She walked. No, it would be she stopped to what? Talk to her friends. Okay. So that is number 9. Okay, number 10. To determine a student's overall test score for the semester, Miss Ackerman deletes the lower test score and calculates the average of the remaining test scores. That we all like that, huh? Niels took all 5 tests and earned the following test scores. Or I know I was working with one of my students and she missed this question. Do you know how she missed it? Was it she or he? I can't remember which one actually. But the student missed his question because they just did the average of the 5 tests. No, you got to include what's up here, right? Which is deleting the lowest test score. You have to delete the lowest test score, and the student forgot to do that. Just calculate the average. So the average really should be what of only 4 scores. So you really we get rid of the 62, and we want the average of what? 78 plus 83 plus 86 plus 93. We know that the average, well, not 96, 93. We know that you get the average of a test by what? Adding all your values and dividing by how many you have, which is 4. We have 4 tests by which we're going to use to create our overall test score based on the directions they gave us for doing that. So 78 plus 83 plus 86 plus 93 is 340, and then 340 divided by 4 equal to 80 to 85 by 4. Yeah, I'm pretty good at this, huh, guys? All right, 85. There we go. Trace J. Okay, be mindful of this question. Like I said, I had a student miss it because she didn't read the take out your lowest score. Okay, so she just did the average of 5, and that's not what the directions say. Absolute value. I had a student miss this one too. For some reason, students like to turn the subtraction sign to addition when they see absolute value. But no, we only turn the answer after we find a value if it's a negative answer to a positive answer. We don't change operations. We only change the values of individual numbers. So when we do 6 minus 4, we get the absolute value of 2. There's a subtraction sign. We do 3 minus 9, we get the absolute value of a negative 6. So we do it first. We do 6 minus 4 first. We do 3 minus 9 first. Then if we get negative values like here, absolute value -6 turns to 6. Absolute value 2 stays 2. Remember, absolute value keeps positive or changes negative. I'm sorry. It either keeps positive or changes a negative to a positive. Okay, but you stick the absolute value of an individual value, it always comes out positive. But the subtraction sign was not in the absolute value, this one in the middle between the two. So we do 2 minus 6 and that gives us negative. Okay, number 12. The cost of a long distance call to a certain city is $1.05. All right. For the first minute. Okay, they charge us $1.05 just for 1 minute and 15 cents for each additional minute. This reminded us of a equation we did before. So you have $1.05 is your flat rate. Plus you have to pay 15 cents for each minute, which means every minute each means multiplying long terms. But it means for every minute we have 15 cents. That's the multiplication power. That's our equation or our expression, sorry, our expression for this situation. So what is the cost of a 15-minute call to this city? That means we would simply replace the M with 15 because M represents minutes. Because we'd be multiplying 15 cents, 0.15 times what? Every minute. Okay. So we just simply substitute once we know our equation. We do 0.15 times 15. I think that's going to be $2.25. And then we add $1.05 to that, and we get $3.30. So that's 25 plus $1.05, and this would be $3.30, which is yes. So, uh, How long would a call? We got 15-minute long distance call from 2037. Interesting. I guess if you're calling overseas, it would, now all our phone plans these days have unlimited minutes, so we don't have to do that. But before you guys time, if you're a youth and you're watching this video, we didn't have unlimited, so we would get charged for calls like that. All right, Dalia is taking inventory of cases of soda cans. There are 24 cans in a full case, and Dahlia, maybe Dalia or Dahlia, has four partially filled cases. Okay, 24 cans in a case, and she has four partially filled case. Okay, one case is half full, which means it's going to have what? If we think about half, that means it's going to be 12 cans because there are 24 cans in a full case. There are 12 cans. One case is two-thirds full. So we could do what? They just multiply in fractions. So we do two-thirds of what? 24, which is the same thing of when we take just like percent of a number, we take a fraction of a number, we're multiplying. And so two-thirds times 24. We're going to turn 24 to 24 over 1 when we multiply fractions. Makes it easier. Okay. We're going to cross cancel the 3 and the 24. So basic cross cancel is almost simplified. What number goes in both 3 and 24? 3. So we're going to divide both by 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So this bottom number came from now 3. 24 divided by 3 is 8. That's how we cross cancel, or what we call simplify. 2 times 8 is 16. 16 over 1 is 16. So that means that this case that is two-thirds full has 16 what? 16 cans. Okay. And two cases are each 5/6, right? So we have what? 5/6 now we want to do of 24, which is the same thing as doing what? 5/6 times 24 over 1. We will again, what? Cross cancel. What number goes in those 6 and 24 is 6. So we do 6 divided by 6 is 1. And 24 divided by the same 6 is 4. And we're going to just multiply across now. We get what? 4 times 5 is 20 over 1, which is 20. So now we have 20, but guess what? That's in two cases because it says are each 20. So we had another 20. So we had a case full of 16. We had a case full of what? Oh no, first it was the half case. The half case was 12, right? So we had what? So we had what we could say case one was what? 12 cans plus what? Case two would be what? We figured that would be 16 cans plus what? Plus case three is 20 cans, and also what? Case four. I bet you some students will miss this because they will only do three cases. They'll only do 12, 16, 20 after do the multiplication. Not remembering that it said what? There are two cases that are each 5/6 full. Okay, so we had to have two from there. How many soda cans are in the first four partial cases? So now we add 20 plus 20 is 40 plus 38 is 78. Is that correct? No, not plus 38, plus 28. So 12 plus 16 is 28. 28 plus 20 plus, we're supposed to go from left to right. So, whoops, not 20 plus 20. So then we have what? 48 plus 20 is 68, right? Which is Tracy. Okay, continuing on. Continuing right along. 14, solar panels that produce 150 amps of electric current. Each are needed for a proposed space station. If the solar panels are manufactured to produce 0.75 amps per square meter of surface area, the surface area of each solar panel needs to be how many square meters? So the key to this question, I remember student missed this one too, and it's not even that hard, is you want to produce, the solar panels are manufactured to produce 0.75 amps per square meter of surface area. Okay, so per 0.75 amps is 1 square meter. They want to find out how many, the surface area should be how many square meters. So if 0.75 represents 1 square meter, and it's 0.75 amps and it's 150 amps, all right, we're talking about the total for the panels, right? So we would do what? How many times 150 would go into, I'm sorry, how many times 0.7 goes into 150? Because every 0.7 represents what? uh, 1 square meter, which would just like 1 meter squared. Okay? Because that's what it is. 0.75 ounce represents 1 meter squared. So if we find out how many 0.75s in 150, that would be how many square meters. Hope you understand that. So we do 150 divided by 0.75, and we get 200 square meters. We can say meters squared, right? Because it's 200, 0.75s in 150. So the surface area of each needs to be 200 square meters. 15, in the right triangle, triangle ACD shown below, B lies on side AC. Some angle measure given was the measurable angle BDC. So if we look at this big triangle, um, right, hopefully you can see I drew the outline. And we just look at those angles. So we got this angle, we got this angle, we got this angle, and we have two of those angles. We know that what? We know that this is the corner means what? 90 degrees. This is 30. So this angle would be what? Well, we know triangular sum theorem means that the angles of a triangle add to 180. Okay. And we want BDC. So really we can do what? One angle, we got the 90 degrees, plus we have the what? Angle A is 30, plus we have angle D, which is composed of two angles. It controls the ABD, which is the 25, right? And then plus whatever it is BDC, that's what we don't know. That's what we want to figure out. So I use the triangular sum theorem to do that. Okay. You get 90 plus 30 is 120 plus what? Nothing in front of x, which would just come out as 25 plus x is 180. Add that, we get 145 plus x is 180. So then we see what? To get x by itself, we do what? We subtract 145 on each side. And that will give us an x value of 35. And that's angle BDC. Because with 35 in there, 35 plus 25 would be 60. 60 plus 30 is 90. 90 plus 90 is 180. That would make the triangular sum theorem true. Moving right along. We got number 16. I'm going to stand up and stretch for a minute. In the standard XY coordinate plane, what is the midpoint of the line segment with endpoints 1, 9? Let's move over here. So I can stand up while I work. I try to alternate it, so I'm just not sitting down the whole time. But I don't want to be standing up the whole time either. Okay. In the standard XY coordinate plane, what is the midpoint of the line segments with endpoint 1, 9, and 7, -3? Well, there are two ways you could do this. One way you could do it is you could simply what? You could simply try to draw a coordinate plane and guess it. The first way that I would do it is you guys know a midpoint formula. What's the midpoint formula? It's the x1 coordinate plus the x2 coordinate divided by 2. That's your x coordinate, your midpoint, and your y coordinate midpoint is the y1 plus the y2 divided. Right? So then we could simply substitute. If you know that from your mind, you simply substitute. So the x1 endpoint is 1 plus the x2 endpoint is 7 divided by 2. I'm getting these values here, and these coordinates that they give us. These are the endpoints, and then the y1 value, y1 is 9 plus y2 is -3 divided by 2. We do the math for that. We get 1 plus 7, 8 divided by 2 is 4. 9 plus 3, -3 is 6 divided by 2 is 3, right? That's one way you could do it. That's the way I would do it, obviously. But the other way you could do it is you could ballpark it. So let's say you don't remember the midpoint formula. You could still ballpark some of these answer choices, right? Because if you draw it out the best you can, and we got to get up to 9, so we're going to need at least, we'll do by 2s. So I just mark up the 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 for spacing. I don't want to be writing all down. But in all of these, I'm going to do all of these by 2s as well, okay? Now, as I'm doing that, I have in the standard coordinate plane with the midpoint of the line segment with endpoints 1, 9. So I'm going to graph 1, 9. So I go over 1, 62, 4, 6, 8, 10. So I go to the right one and up 9. So this is going to be 1, 9. And then I'm going to graph 7, -3. So I go 2, 4, 6. Between 7 is going to be between 6 and 8. And I'm at -3, which would be in between what, -2 and -4. So I got there, and then I go there, and that's about where I am. So how does this help you? Let's say you don't know the formula, right? If you can draw a coordinate plane, then you could say what? You could draw a line that connects the two. Then you say, well, where is the middle? The middle of this line, if I'm looking at, I'm just ballparking it, seems to be somewhere there, right? Seems to be there. So I know the x coordinate in the middle should be about 4. Now, 5 could work because it looked like, it's not always drawing a scale. So it's either 4 or 5, though. We know the midpoint is there just by looking. So if you were doing this on your own, you should at least be able to get to answer choices H and J. Um, and then you have to guess which one you think is closer to. If you draw your figure to scale, obviously ours is closer to 4, 3. Because 5, 5, 2 would be more like here, which is actually pretty close as well. Um, but I think 4, 3 is more in line with, more in line with the middle, more in line with the 4. So that is that. All right. Burt's Building Supply receives shipments of only two kinds of lawnmowers, tough cuts and easy pushes. Today's shipment contains 96 lawnmowers with twice as many tough cuts as easy pushes. How many of these 96 are tough cuts? Okay, so Burt's Building Supply receives shipments of only two kinds of lawn. You only got in your shipment is only tough cuts and easy pushes. Today's shipment contains 26 lawnmowers with twice as many tough cuts versus easy pushes. So I could write a formula for that if I want. I could write that if I let X be, because they say twice as many tough cuts as easy pushes. So if X is easy pushes, then if I do twice as many of that, and I want to, twice as many is 2X. You guys see that? That's twice as many. So 2 times X, because it says twice as many tough cuts as easy pushes. So easy push would be if you let easy push be X, then that would mean what? Tough cuts would have to be 2X, right? But we also know too that we have to add how many easy pushes we have plus what? How many tough cuts we have. And they have to be equal to what? 96. As they said that the shipment only contain 96 lawnmowers. So when you take how many easy push lawnmowers and then you twice that or 2 times that to get your tough push lawnmower, if you add those two together, you get 96. Okay. So how do we do this algebraically? Let's finish up over here. So x plus 2x is 3x equals 96. That's just regular algebra. And then how do you get the variable by itself? If it's 3 times x, you divide both sides by 3, right? Cancel there, whatever we do to one side, we do to another. And we get what? We get x is equal to 32. So that would mean we have what? If x, so we go back and see what did we set x equal to? So x was equal to here, which means they got in 32 easy pushes lawnmowers, right? So you have x would be 32 easy pushes. And did they ask about easy pushes? No, they said how many of these are tough cuts. So we would have to plug in what? 32 for x. You see, this is tough cuts here. So we do what? 2 times 32 because it said he made twice as much. He did twice as much as Jaden. Sorry, twice as much. Um, he did twice as much each as tough cuts as easy puts. So that's 2 times 32, which would be 64. So then that means he did 64 tough cuts, 32 easy pushes. If you add them together, you get 96, right? So the answer is 64. You see how they put 32 as an answer too? That's very important. That means they're trying to trick you. Because let's say you weren't really looking at the question and you just answered it based on having 32 easy pushes. Okay. So don't be tricked. All right. Whoops. Okay. All right. Let's go on. I think we're gonna go up to do this first video. How many questions are in the math? Because I'll do half now and then I'll do half later. First video up to 36, so maybe up to 18. Although the first half is going to be easy, so maybe I should do it. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, last one we left off on was number, we did 17, 18. The expression x squared plus 5x minus 6 is equivalent to, this is what we call a quadratic expression. What does quadratic mean? The highest variable, I'm sorry, the variable that's in the equation or in the expression, its highest value to the second power. That's what it means to be quadratic. So whenever you see quadratics in that form, ax squared plus bx plus c, what you do is you multiply to give you the c term. So what factors? Factors mean numbers you multiply to give you something, right? So we want the factors of 6 or negative 6. And the what? The sum. Sum means you do what? You add. So factors of 36, sum of positive 5, right? So what numbers multiply to give you negative 6, but add to give you 5? So if we start listing our factors, the first ones are, what? If we look at the factors of 6, let's focus on the C term. We can do 1 times 6, we can do 2 times 3, and we can put the size where we want. We want to get negative 6 when we multiply, which means one has to be positive, one has to be negative. And we want positive 5 when we add, so that means here's this one. The 6 has to be positive, the 1 has to be negative. So that means if we factor this, we get what? We get x minus 1, x plus 6. Now, if you weren't sure, you can always FOIL it back or multiply them on the way back. X times x squared, x times plus is 6x, negative 1 times x, negative 1x, negative 1 times 6 is negative 6. So you can always do it that way if you want to check it again. But we can see that when the x is minus 1 and the y is plus 6, it is choice K. All right, I think I'm actually gonna stop there. That's a halfway. Well, let's see, 19, 20. Yeah, we'll stop there and we'll pick it back up later. That's about the halfway point. Thank you for your time.